Section 36 of The Dream of the Red Chamber, Book 1. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Elizabeth Buchanan. The Dream of the Red Chamber, Book 1, by Cao Xueqin. Translated by Henry Bencraft Joly. Chapter 16, Part 3. While they were engaged in this conversation, a servant came a second time, at the instance of Madame Wang, to see whether lady Feng had finished her meal or not; and lady Feng, forthwith concluding that there must be something waiting for her to attend to, hurriedly rushed through her repast. She had just rinsed her mouth and was about to start, when the youths on duty at the second gate also reported that the two gentlemen, Mr. Chia Jung and Mr. Chia Se, belonging to the Eastern Mansion, had arrived. Chia Lien had at length rinsed his mouth, but while P'ing Erh presented a basin for him to wash his hands, he perceived the two young men walk in, and readily inquired of them what they had to say. Lady Feng was, on account of their arrival, likewise compelled to say, and she heard Chia Jung take the lead and observe: "My father has sent me to tell you, uncle, that the gentlemen have already decided that the whole extent of ground, starting from the east side, borrowing for the occasion the flower garden of the Eastern Mansion, straight up to the northwest, has been measured and found to amount in all to 3½ li; that it will be suitable for the erection of extra accommodation for the visiting party; that they have already commissioned an architect to draw a plan, which will be ready by to morrow; that as you, uncle, have just returned home and must unavoidably feel fatigued, you need not go over to our house, but that if you have anything to say, you should please come to morrow morning, as early as you can, and consult verbally with him." "Thank uncle warmly," Chia Lien rejoined smilingly, "for the trouble he has taken in thinking of me. I shall, in that case, comply with his wishes and not go over. This plan is certainly the proper one, for while trouble will thus be saved, the erection of the quarters will likewise be an easy matter; for had a distinct plot to be selected and to be purchased, it would involve far greater difficulties. What's more, things wouldn't, after all, be what they properly should be. When you get back, tell your father that this decision is the right one, and that should the gentlemen have any further wish to introduce any change in their proposals, it will rest entirely with my uncle to prevent them, as it's on no account advisable to go and cast one's choice on some other plot; that tomorrow, as soon as it's daylight, I'll come and pay my respects to uncle, when we can enter into further details in our deliberations." Chia Jung hastily signified his assent by several yeses, and Chia Se also came forward to deliver his message. "The mission to Ku Su," he explained, "to find tutors, to purchase servant girls, and to obtain musical instruments and theatrical properties and the like, my uncle has confided to me; and as I'm to take along with me the two sons of a couple of majordomos, and two companions of the family besides, Tan Ping Chen and Pei Ku Xiu, he has, for this reason, enjoined me to come and see you, uncle." Upon hearing this, Chia Lien scrutinised Chia Se. "What?" he asked, "are you able to undertake these commissions? These matters are, it's true, of no great moment, but there's something more hidden in them." Chia Se smiled. "The best thing I can do," he remarked, "will be to execute them in my novice sort of way, that's all." Chia Jung was standing next to lady Feng, out of the light of the lamp, and stealthily pulled the lapel of her dress. Lady Feng understood the hint, and putting on a smiling expression: "You are too full of fears," she interposed. "Is it likely that our uncle Chen doesn't, after all, know better than we do what men to employ? That you again give way to apprehensions that he isn't up to the mark? But who are those who are, in every respect, up to the mark? These young fellows have grown up already to this age, and if they haven't eaten any pork, they have nevertheless seen a pig run. If Mr. Chen has deputed him to go, he is simply meant to sit under the general standard; and do you imagine, forsooth, that he has, in real earnest, told him to go and bargain about the purchase money, and to interview the brokers himself? My own idea is that the choice is a very good one." Of course it is," observed Chia Lien.
"But it isn't that I entertain any wish to be factious."
"My only object is to devise some plan or other for him. Whence will," he therefore went on to ask, "the money required for this purpose come from?" "A little while ago the deliberations reached this point," rejoined Chia Se, "and Mr. Lai suggested that there was no necessity at all to take any funds from the capital, as the Chen family, in Chiangnan, had still in their possession 50,000 taels of our money; that he would to morrow write a letter of advice and a draft for us to take along, that we should, first of all, obtain cash to the amount of 30,000 taels, and let the balance of taels 20,000 remain over, for the purchase of painted lanterns and coloured candles, as well as for the outlay of every kind of portieres, banners, curtains and streamers." Chia Lien nodded his head. "This plan is first rate," he added. "Since that be so," observed lady Feng, as she addressed herself to Chia Se, "I've two able and reliable men, and if you would take them with you to attend these matters, won't it be to your convenience?" Chia Se forced a smile. "I was just on the point," he rejoined, "of asking you, aunt, for the loan of two men, so that this suggestion is a strange coincidence." As he went on to ascertain what were their names, lady Feng inquired what they were of nurse Chao. But nurse Chao had, by this time, become quite dazed from listening to the conversation, and P'ing Erh had to give her a push, as she smiled, before she returned to consciousness. "The one," she hastened to reply, "is called Chao Tianliang, and the other Chao Tiandong." "Whatever you do," suggested lady Feng, "don't forget them. But now I'm off to look after my duties." With these words she left the room, and Chia Jung promptly followed her out, and with gentle voice he said to her: "Of whatever you want, aunt, issue orders that a list be drawn up, and I'll give it to my brother to take with him, and he'll carry out your commissions according to the list." "Don't talk nonsense," replied lady Feng laughing. "I've found no place as yet, where I could put away all my own things, and do the stealthy practices of you people take my fancy?" As she uttered these words, she straightway went her way. Chia Se at this time likewise asked Chia Lien: "If you want anything in the way of curtains, I can conveniently have them woven for you, along with the rest, and bring them as a present to you." "Don't be in such high glee," Chia Lien urged with a grin. "You've but recently been learning how to do business, and have you come first and foremost to excel in tricks of this kind? If I require anything, I'll of course write and tell you, but we needn't talk about it." Having finished speaking, he dismissed the two young men, and in quick succession servants came to make their business reports, not limited to 3 and 5 companies, but, as Chia Lien felt exhausted, he forthwith sent word to those on duty at the second gate not to allow any one at all to communicate any reports, and that the whole crowd should wait till the next day, when he would give his mind to what had to be done. Lady Feng did not come to retire to rest till the third watch, but nothing need be said about the whole night. The next morning, at an early hour, Chia Lien got up and called on Chia She and Chia Cheng, after which he came over to the Ning Kuo mansion, when, in company with the old major domos and other servants, as well as with several old family friends and companions, he inspected the grounds of the two mansions, and drew plans of the palatial buildings, for the accommodation of the imperial consort and her escort, on her visit to her parents, deliberating at the same time on the subject of the works and workmen. From this day the masons and workmen of every trade were collected to the full number, and the articles of gold, silver, copper and pewter, as well as the earth, timber, tiles and bricks, were brought over and carried in incessant supplies. In the first place, orders were issued to the workmen to demolish the wall and towers of the Garden of Concentrated Fragrance, and extend a passage to connect in a straight line with the large court in the east of the Jung mansion, for the whole extent of servants' quarters on the eastern side of the Jung mansion had previously been pulled down. The two residences of Ning and Jung were, in these days, it is true, divided by a small street, which served as a boundary line, and there was no communication between them, but this narrow passage was also private property, and not in any way a government street, so that they could easily be connected, and as in the garden of concentrated fragrance, there was already a stream of running water which had been introduced through the corner of the northern wall, there was no further need now of going to the trouble of bringing in another. Although the rockeries and trees were not sufficient, the place where Chia She lived was an old garden of the Jung mansion, so that the bamboos, trees and rockeries in that compound, as well as the arbours, railings and other such things, could all very well be removed to the front. And by these means, these two grounds, situated as they were, besides, so very near each other, could, by being thrown into one, conduce to the saving of considerable capital and labour; for, in spite of some deficiency, what had to be supplied did not amount to much.
And it devolved entirely upon a certain old Hu, a man of note, styled Shan Tzu-ye, to deliberate upon one thing after another, and to initiate its construction. Chia Cheng was not up to these ordinary matters,
so that it fell to Chia She, Chia Chen, Chia Lian, Lai Ta, Lai Sheng, Li Chi Shao, Wu Qin Tang, Chan Huang, Qin Ji Xing, and several others to allot the sites, to set things in order, and to look after the heaping up of rockeries, the digging of ponds, the construction of two-storied buildings, the erection of halls, the plantation of bamboos, and the cultivation of flowers. Everything connected with the improvement of the scenery devolving, on the other hand, upon Shan Tzu-ye to make provision for; and after leaving court, he would devote such leisure moments as he had to merely going everywhere to give a look at the most important spots, and to consult with Chia She and the others, after which he troubled his mind no more with anything. And as Chia She did nothing else than stay at home and lie off, whenever any matter turned up, trifling though it may have been as a grain of mustard seed or a bean, Chia Chen and his associates had either to go and report it in person, or to write a memorandum of it; or, if he had anything to say, he sent for Chia Lian, Lai Ta and the others to come and receive his instructions. Chia Jung had the sole direction of the manufacture of the articles of gold and silver; and as for Chia Se, he had already set out on his journey to Kusu. Chia Chen, Lai Ta and the rest had also to call out the roll with the names of the workmen, to superintend the works and other duties relative thereto, which could not be recorded by one pen alone. Sufficient to say that a great bustle and stir prevailed; but to this subject we shall not refer for a time, but allude to Pao yü. As of late, there were in the household concerns of this magnitude to attend to. Chia Cheng did not come to examine him in his lessons, so that he was, of course, in high spirits; but as unfortunately Ch'in Chung's complaint became day by day more serious, he was at the same time really so very distressed at heart on his account, that enjoyment was for him out of the question. On this day, he got up as soon as it was dawn, and having just combed his hair and washed his face and hands, he was bent upon going to ask dowager lady Chia to allow him to pay a visit to Ch'in Chung, when he suddenly espied Ming Yen peep round the curtain wall at the second gate, and then withdraw his head. Pao yü promptly walked out and inquired what he was up to. "Mr. Ch'in Chung," observed Ming Yen, "is not well at all." Pao yü at these words was quite taken aback. "It was only yesterday," he hastily added, "that I saw him, and he was still bright and cheery; and how is it that he's anything but well now?" "I myself can't explain," replied Ming Yen, "but just a few minutes ago, an old man belonging to his family came over with the express purpose of giving me the tidings." Upon hearing this news, Pao yü there and then turned round and told dowager lady Chia, and the old lady issued directions to depute some trustworthy persons to accompany him. "Let him go," she said, "and satisfy his feelings towards his fellow scholar; but as soon as he has done, he must come back, and don't let him tarry too long." Pao yü with hurried step left the room and came and changed his clothes. But as, on his arrival outside, the carriage had not as yet been got ready, he fell into such a state of excitement that he went round and round all over the hall in quite an erratic manner. In a short while, after the pressure had been brought to bear, the carriage arrived, and speedily mounting the vehicle, he drove up to the door of Ch'in Chung's house, followed by Li Kuei, Ming Yen and the other servants. Everything was quiet. not a soul was about. Like a hive of bees, they flocked into the house, to the astonishment of 2 distant aunts, and of several male cousins of Ch'in Chung, all of whom had no time to effect their retreat. Ch'in Chung had, by this time, had 2 or 3 fainting fits, and had already long ago been changed his mat. As soon as Pao yü realised the situation, he felt unable to repress himself from bursting forth aloud. Li Kuei promptly reasoned with him. "You shouldn't go on this way," he urged. "You shouldn't! It's because Mr. Ch'in is so weak that lying flat on the stove couch naturally made his bones feel uncomfortable.
And that's why he has temporarily been removed down here,
to ease him a little. But if you, sir, go on in this way, will you not, instead of doing him any good, aggravate his illness?" At these words, Pao yü accordingly restrained himself and held his tongue, and drawing near, he gazed at Ch'in Chung's face, which was as white as wax, while with closed eyes he gasped for breath, rolling about on his pillow. "Brother Ch'in!" speedily exclaimed Pao yü, "Pao yü is here!" But though he shouted out 2 or 3 consecutive times, Ch'in Chung did not heed him. "Pao yü has come!" Pao yü went on again to cry. But Ch'in Chung's spirit had already departed from his body, leaving behind only a faint breath of superfluous air in his lungs. He had just caught sight of a number of recording devils, holding a warrant and carrying chains, coming to seize him, but Ch'in Chung's soul would on no account go along with them, and remembering how that there was in his home no one to assume the direction of domestic affairs, and feeling concerned that Ch'in Neng had as yet no home, he consequently used hundreds of arguments in his entreaties to the recording devils. But alas! These devils would, none of them, show him any favour; on the contrary, they heaped invectives upon Ch'in Chung. "You're fortunate enough to be a man of letters," they insinuated, "and don't you know the common saying that if the Prince of Hell call upon you to die at the 3rd watch, who can presume to retain you? A human being up to the 5th watch? In our abode, in the unseen, high as well as low have all alike a face made of iron, and heed not selfish motives, unlike the mortal world where favouritism and partiality prevail. There exist therefore many difficulties in the way to our yielding to your wishes." While this fuss was going on, Ch'in Chung's spirit suddenly grasped the 4 words, "Pao yü has come," and without loss of time, it went on again to make further urgent appeals. "Gentlemen, spiritual deputies," it exclaimed, "show me a little mercy, and allow me to return to make just one remark to an intimate friend of mine, and I'll be back again." "What intimate friend is this again?" the devils observed with one voice. "I'm not deceiving you, gentlemen," rejoined Ch'in Chung. "It's the grandson of the Duke of Rongguo, whose infant name is Pao yü." The Decider of Life was, at first, upon hearing these words, so seized with dismay that he vehemently abused the devils sent on the errand. "I told you," he shouted, "to let him go back for a turn, but you would by no means comply with my words, and now do you wait until he has summoned a man of glorious fortune and prosperous standing to at last assist?" When the company of devils perceived the manner of the Decider of Life, they were all likewise so seized with consternation that they bustled with hand and feet, while with hearts also full of resentment. "You, sir," they replied, "were at one time such a terror formidable as lightning, and are you not forsooth able to listen with equanimity to the 2 sounds of Pao yü? Our humble idea is that, mortal as he is, and immortal as we are, it wouldn't be to our credit if we feared him." But whether Ch'in Chung, after all, died or survived, the next chapter will explain. End of section 36.